Hello, everyone. Welcome to the call today. Thank you for staying on while there's been no intro music. I do apologize for that. But on that note, I hope you're still all excited to learn about what is new this quarter in ITOM AI Ops. So you may have noticed that we are referring to it as ITOM AI Ops because it is the solution that we offer through the specific product of ITOM Health, if anyone needed some more clarification. And with that explanation, I just want to introduce myself for today. My name is Victoria Lowe, and I am one of the outbound product managers for ITOM, and I focus specifically on ITOM AI Ops. And I'll be going through the session with you today with my team member, Jason Smith, also supporting me here in the call. So if you have any questions that may need to be answered in the Q&A module, then he will most likely be the one to answer it because for me to speak and type at the same time, I'm not very good at that. So thank you, Jason. And I will be joining you today from Toronto, Canada. It's kind of cold up here, and it was snowing this morning, and I hope spring is actually coming soon. And Jason will be joining us from Stockholm, Sweden, for anyone else who is in the area. And we will be covering ITOM AI Ops today, but tomorrow at the same time, we'll be having a webinar session for ITOM visibility as well. So make sure you're already signed up for that if you are not already. So let's get started. So in case we make any slightly forward-looking statements, the safe harbor notice applies here, and you can read it below or in the slide right here. So yes, but there will likely be none because this is mostly just a webinar focused on what's new for this quarter. That being said, if you're interested in joining us for any of our future webinars, please see the schedule here. You can sign up with your QR code. Quickly scan it right now, but also you could always just go to live on ServiceNow on the community to look at all the other workshops webinars that are available. And I would like to note that as of last week, we did have to just switch the webinars for ITOM AI Ops and ITOM Visibility just because of some scheduling conflicts. So I hope you do stay for this webinar, but in any case, the other webinar for ITOM Visibility will be tomorrow. And I just want to go through some housekeeping. So we save time at the end of this call for Q&A, but please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen along the way so that Jason Smith, or maybe me if we have some time, can answer the questions throughout the session. The presentation itself will also be recorded and shared on the ServiceNow community. So in the case where you want to send this out to any of your other team members who may have not been able to join this call, then you can do so by sending the link to them after the session. And also after this event, you will be prompted to fill out a short survey, and we would really appreciate it because your feedback matters to us. So thank you in advance for that. So the agenda for today is that I'll be going over the product evolution slide of ITOM AI Ops. Then I'll be going through several overviews of what we came out with in the February release, as well as what's come out in the March store release, which was just on March 7th. And then I'll also be going over the end of life and sunset capabilities. Then I'll go more into depth about each of the release items from February and March. And then I'll discuss some research opportunities that you could sign up for if you're interested. And then I'll also be giving you some information about upcoming ITOM AI Ops events. And then after all this, we will have some time for Q&A. So if you have any questions that aren't answered yet throughout the session, then we could address them then. So I have a few polls set up for this session, and we would really appreciate if you could answer them so we could just get a gauge on how you use AI ops. And I can slightly change the way that I speak about some things depending on how mature some of you are with the product. So I'll close the poll in a few more seconds. I can see that some of you use it yourselves, but more or less your organization uses it, or you may not be using it. So in the case that you're not using it, I think that a lot of the capabilities that we've come out with in the past quarter will be very interesting to you and most likely very helpful to you. So please let us know if you have any additional questions, or if you want to reach out to learn even more about the product. You can reach out directly to Jason Smith or I at victorialow@servicenow.com or jason.smith@servicenow.com. I'm just going to end the poll right now, and then we will move on with the rest of the presentation. So here we can see there's the product evolution slide. You can see how we've evolved on ITOM AI Ops from Rome all the way to Washington, D.C., and how we have slowly been prioritizing different areas of AI Ops throughout each throughout each release. And at this time, if you're raising your hand, I will not be able to answer because I just want to make sure we get through all the content. So at the end of the call, we will make time for discussion. So just keep your hands down for now and we'll address it after. If anything, you can also put your questions in the Q&A and Jason Smith can help answer it while I'm presenting. So in Washington, D.C., we had a few items that came out in the February store release around metric intelligence specifically and an ACCM check. While in the March store release, we focused on enhancements of the AIOps experience, including the Express List and Integrations Launchpad, and we came up with a few items in the Innovation Lab, which include link view and alert automations. We also have service reliability management, or otherwise known as SRM, which is currently in control go-to-market. And there's also Now Assist for ITOM alert simplification, which went GA on March 7th, which is our use of GenAI in ITOM AIOps. And I will go more into depth about all these items in this Washington, D.C. column shortly. So here is an overview of the February family store release features. So we have made an update to the UX of metric rules, previously known as static thresholds, and I'll talk about that later. And then we also have released in the store the Azure ACCM check, making it easier for you to monitor your Azure VMs without having multiple checks. You can monitor thousands of VMs with just one check instead. As for the March store release, we have the alert simplification, like I mentioned, has gone GA, some enhancements for Express Lists, link views in Innovation Lab. There's also alert automations, which is an Innovation Lab, and an integrations Launchpad enhancement, as well as, again, service reliability, which is currently in control go-to-market. You'll have access to this presentation after, so in the case where you want to reference any of these, you can look at the recording. So here is also an overview of end-of-life and sunset capabilities. So Cloud Native Operations, the store app, is reaching sunset capability, where the capabilities for visibility will be available through ACCV, but currently we do not have a direct replacement for any of the CNO for monitoring capabilities. As well as the operator workspaces reaching sunset in Washington, which is the release that just passed, or that has come out today. And if you're not already on the service operations workspace, please start the migration because we are no longer going to be enhancing the operator workspace, but it will still be supported until it is completely end of life. And then there's also the event management mobile app, which will be passing in Xanadu, which is later this year. And we may have a replacement coming later this year as well. As for end of life capabilities, there are the metric intelligence connectors, and it's already passed in Vancouver. But in the case where some of you may have not yet upgraded to Vancouver, I just want to let you know in case you're using the connectors for SCOM at this time. And we hopefully will be releasing some new SCOM connectors in the future as well. So I'll be going over the February store release feature overview now. And starting off with the metric rules UX update. So previously, when you had to set up the static thresholds, it was on a legacy UX where it definitely did not look like this, and on a previous module that would have been called static thresholds. But now we provided a new experience for you to set up your static thresholds for metric intelligence, which is one of the applications of ITOM Health, which is the product that we offer our ITOM AIOps solution for. And through this new UX, we have a guided experience now. And in any case, if anyone is currently using Dex, there is a shared unified experience between these two applications for metric rule setup. And I would like to note that Vancouver patch 6 is required for this, but I will now go through a few more slides, which will show you just how straightforward the setup experience is. So right now we can see the module that you would see if you open metric rules. And in the case that you are opening the new module, when you select new metric rule or an existing metric rule, you'll then be brought to this page to create a new metric rule. And now you can see that there's 3 specific steps that we guide you through to create it. So first we ask you to select which CI class that you want to apply the metric rule to. So this is where we will look at the specific CI class's metrics in order to compare it to the rule that you're setting right now. So you select the CI class, and then you can select additional filtering to refine which specific CIs in that class should this rule apply to. And then at the point when you've defined this first criteria, then you set up the alert criteria yourself. So you set which specific value should be exceeded or it should fall under for a specific alert to be triggered. And you can also select the alert severity. And you can also add additional alert severities for different ranges for the comparison operator if you have various values as well. You can also choose exactly when the alert should be triggered based off of the breaching criteria, which can be adjusted in the area down here. And we made it even easier for you to understand when alerts will be opened and closed through this text box right here, explaining that in this specific example, the alert will automatically be cleared when the node CPU value is greater than or equals to 100. And then at this point, when you've selected all the criteria for the specific CI and when the alert should be triggered, then we have the name setup. So once you put the name and make sure that it is an active rule, then when you press finish, it'll automatically be activated. Now moving on to the Azure ACCM check enhancement. So previously you would have to have run multiple checks in order to monitor your various Azure VMs. But now we're using a Azure Batch API where we can now monitor thousands of VMs with one check as opposed to having to set up multiple checks for each VM itself. And we're running this by using the resource ID from Cloud Discovery. And if you wanted to use this new check, just make sure to update your Metric Intelligence Store app. And then there is the March store release feature overviews. So starting with Now Assist for ITOM, we have the alert simplification, which has gone GA. And this is the first capability that we're releasing as Now Assist for ITOM as part of ITOM AIOps. And we can see here that now we have an additional option in the express list where when an operator is looking at express list and they may see a description that they may not be familiar with, and in any case, maybe they're a less experienced operator or a new person to the organization, it can be hard for them to understand all the alerts that are being triggered by an organization's various monitoring tools right when they get started. So we're making this easier and more approachable for these types of personas by leveraging generative AI using our internal Now large language model instead of a third-party LLM, where through analyzing the short description that is generated by your various monitoring tools, we will generate a alert simplification where we provide to you a summary of the alert itself, as well as we go beyond that and provide an alert analysis. And by doing this, we enable operators to more easily understand the alerts without having to reassign it or potentially escalate it, which would drive down mean time to resolution, while enabling them to just remediate it themselves through the alert analysis, which we provide information on exactly what may have triggered the alert in the first place, as well as useful next steps for how you should continue monitoring or understanding how to fix the alert itself. And this will actually be part of one of the new licenses that we have, which will be part of the Pro or Enterprise Plus. So if you are interested in this, please contact your account teams if you wanted to use alert simplification in your existing ITOM instances. And I just want to note as well that Vancouver Patch 7 is the minimum requirement to use this new capability that we're offering. And I just have a quick recorded demo of alert simplification, which I'll just play right now and also talk through. So right now we can see that this is actually me. I recorded this demo. We are on the Express list, which is the live alert list that is in the Service Operations Workspace. And for those who aren't familiar with the Service Operations Workspace, it is a shared workspace between ITSM and ITOM personas where they can work more closely together while being in the same workspace while having the specific modules that apply most to them. So here in the Express list, we can see now that I'm clicking on a specific alert that maybe I don't understand so much. And I'm looking at the description and it doesn't really make much sense to me. And all the other information that we provide also isn't really helping me that much. So what's the next best option? Since I have alert simplification, I can just simplify the alert. So now I can see that the summary is broken down of what on earth the description is saying in the first place, so I can more easily understand it. And then I can see that there's also the alert analysis right below it, which provides additional information as to what is happening in the alert itself and explaining more on what the original cause could have been, which could have been that the node is under heavy load and may be struggling to perform its tasks efficiently, as well as the recommended steps to take, which is investigating the cause of the high load and then taking the appropriate measures to reduce it, such as optimizing resource allocation, scaling the application, or adding additional resources. So through all this information, as an operator, I would now know what to do in order to remediate this alert without having to contact or reassign this alert to other members on my team. And that is also it for ITOM alert simplification, but moving on to express list enhancements. So again, express list is the live alert list that we offer as part of ITOM AIOps. And we can see here that we've already released this specific list back last year in the Q1 release of last year, but now we're adding even more features. So one of the first enhancements that we have is predefined team views. So now for various users or groups, you can set up predefined team views in the administration for event management, where for alerts that satisfy specific conditions, you can create predefined filters for the specific users and teams that you want to assign this filter to, so that when they open Express List themselves, they will have the options for whatever filters you've assigned for them. So you can see right here that the Delta team is one of the predefined filters that we have, or that you could set up. And these are all the other filters that may have been assigned to the specific user at the time. So we're making it easier for teams to manage their Express lists while not having to constantly tell their own teams what's being changed in the scope of maybe what they're monitoring. You can update the predefined view from the admin console, and you won't have to communicate it with your team. It'll just be updated for everyone that the predefined view is assigned to. And then another enhancement that we have is that for alert information in the Express List side panel, we've added more information. So we can see now that we have additional information, including alert trends. So we can see that alert trends include information about the other similar alerts that have happened recently, as well as if this exact alert has happened recently as well. This enables operators to have access to more useful information that will help them in remediating the issue faster, driving down, again, mean time to resolution by having access to other alerts that may have already been resolved in the past. And then we're also providing additional information regarding probable root cause, such as changes, other related changes, other related alerts, incidents, or problems, or anything else that may be related to the alert that's been opened at this time. So this is the second enhancement for Express Lists. And then I'll be moving on to the Integrations Launchpad enhancements. So Integrations Launchpad is our low-code, no-code solution to integrating monitoring tools into ITOM. So for the ITOM health-specific product of event management, you need to integrate your monitoring tools into ServiceNow so that we can receive all the events that are generated by your various monitoring tools that may send over events, they may send over logs, they may send over metrics, but you all need to connect these tools to ServiceNow so that we can start processing them and creating alerts where necessary. So we have already come out with a custom webhook option because we do have some out-of-the-box guided setups for very common monitoring tools, but there are some that we haven't created out-of-the-box options for yet. And in those cases, for monitoring tools that generate events, we have the custom webhook option. And now we've made it even easier to set up this custom option where after we provide you you provide ServiceNow the necessary details to set up it initially, after we get all the information that's needed, we have the option to either gather real source events from this new source so that you can map it from fields from the monitoring tool to the ServiceNow standard alert fields, or the option for using a JSON payload to map the fields is also an option. But there is sometimes the roadblock of where you may not have access to this JSON payload of the original monitoring tool source. So we made it even easier by enabling you to gather some sample events essentially so that you can do the mapping without having to copy and paste the JSON payload from the event source itself. And the other steps of the guided step are still the same. After you gather the data that you need, then you just do the field mapping from the monitoring tool fields to the standard ServiceNow alert fields. Then we have Link View, which is part of the Innovation Lab. So Link View is currently in the Innovation Lab, like I said, so it will be in the ServiceNow store, but you just have to navigate to the Innovation Lab section. And Link View is a topological view of alert groups themselves, specifically for tag-based alert groups, to help you understand the alert blast radius of an alert group, where you can easily see all the relevant information for you to understand the impact of this alert group on the greater scope of your ServiceNow environment. So through understanding the additional information that's connected, such as related IP addresses, the related metrics, or the configuration items, as well as node or the source, you can better understand the impact of the alert group on the greater area of your ServiceNow environment that you have set up. So you don't necessarily need a mature CMDB to leverage this because we are supporting this through alert tags, but it is an option in the future, most likely, to also leverage this for if you do leverage CMDB-based grouping. And there's also the compatibility, which is quite important. So you will need just the Vancouver family release in order for you to get a look at how LinkView works in your own environments. So this will be, again, through the LinkView app. And then there's also alert automations, which is in Innovation Lab. So we are currently centralizing a lot of the common features or capabilities of ITOM Health's event management into the service operations workspace. So one of the areas that we're centralizing, or one of the capabilities that we're centralizing in the service operations workspace, is alert automations. So one of the alert automations is adding business context, otherwise known as enriching alerts. So we're making it easier for you to extract alert fields, which would have been otherwise through going to the event rules module or the event field mapping module. And now you can do it all in the service operations workspace yourself without having to navigate to several different modules in order to further enrich your alerts that you have coming into your ServiceNow environment. You can also create alert tags now through this, as opposed to going to the tag-based alert or tag-based alert correlation engine, which is what the module is currently called. You can just create the alert tags through this now more easily. Then there's also the alert grouping, which is now being centralized into the service operations workspace. So as opposed to having to navigate previously to the alert grouping rules, you can now do it and set those rules within the service operations workspace. Instead of having to navigate to a separate module, you can do it all here. So you can also easily see all the existing rules that you also have so that you can also reference them before you create potentially new automation, or just see what you have currently in your environment that is active or not active. So this, for just a bit further information, we do support various types of grouping. So for those who may not be as familiar with alert grouping rules, we do support grouping for alerts with common fields, common tags, CIs, and more. And the grouping can be based on exact match, fuzzy match, which can mean you can set a percentage of 50%, 80% fuzzy match, or pattern matching as well. And then we also have included common alert escalations in alert automations, where we took the time to understand common questions, or sorry, not common questions, common escalations of customers and what they want to do with alerts. And we made it easier for you to easily create incidents automatically from alerts, or to send emails directly from alerts that satisfy specific conditions. And I did want to note that we will have time at the end for live Q&A, so I just want to make sure that I can make it through all the content before answering additional questions myself. and please put any questions you have in the Q&A. We do have Jason Smith ready to answer anything you want to ask there. And I just want to note that this again is part of Innovation Lab, and Washington Patch 1 is required. And to finish off the what's new content for this quarter, there's also service reliability management. Currently, it is in a controlled go-to-market release, but we do plan to go GA later this year. And in SRM, which is a much easier way to say service reliability management, we're providing self-service tools for distributed teams, whether it is an SRE team or whether you may just have distributed teams that manage different application services or monitor different services in general. We're giving them more self-service options to manage their integrations, manage their specific alerts, manage their event rules, manage their event field mapping rules, and so on, as well as their SLIs and SLOs and error budgets, so that they do not have to rely specifically on an admin to set up all these rules for them. So all the features that I showed previously in alert automations, this will be leverageable for these other members of teams if they are distributed, if you're utilizing SRM as well. And with all that information, I did want to understand, of all the things I showed you, which were quite a few, I want to know what you are most excited about and what you think that you may be able to implement first of all these things that we've talked about today. And while you are answering that, and while I'm taking a short speaking break, I'll just quickly move on to the ITOM research opportunities that we have. So with ITOM, we are constantly looking at how we can improve our products or build products that are better to support you. And we have 3 current areas and actually some more, but these are the ones that apply most to the ITOM AIOps solution, which is provided through the ITOM Health application or ITOM Health product, if there's any confusion there. And the 3 focus areas that we have right now are the operator excellence, admin time to value, and distributed teams. So operator excellence is focused on making it easier for operators to analyze alerts and resolve them. And the specific people we want to target, or if you are interested and you fit this persona, are NOC operators and L2 responders. And then there's also the admin time to value, which is focused on speeding up time to set up and optimize event management. So that is why we are focusing on centralizing a lot of the core capabilities into the service operations workspace. And if you are a centralized monitoring team or SME, we are interested in talking to you, as well as the final research opportunity, but there's obviously some more because we have a greater product than just ITOM Health, is distributed teams. So focusing on operational working flows and team collaboration for especially teams that may not work directly together, but work on infrastructure that relates to each other. These are the specific areas that we want to focus on. And the personas for this one are going to be subject matter experts in areas such as application, infrastructure, and technology that engage with monitoring and observability tools. So if you have any additional questions about this, you can contact Ofer at his email down here. He is the staff UX researcher. But in any case, if you are interested in signing up for research, I am putting the link in the chat right now. Otherwise, you can reach out to Ofer right here if you're interested in learning more, or if you don't want to sign up right away, that is also fine. But make sure to reach out to Ofer in case you wanted to know any more information before signing up for research. And I'm just going to share the results of the poll as well in case anyone is interested. And you may also see Austin in the chat, Austin Lazarus. So in the case where you want to learn a bit more, she's also put a bit more information about the research opportunities as well. And then last but not least, before we move on to Q&A and discussion, we are having some upcoming ITOM AIOps events. So for those of you who are in America, we have some in-person workshops coming up in San Diego and New York City in April. And those are the dates right there. If you're interested in signing up, I have put the links to sign up in the chat to register. And these workshops will be in person. So you'll have to be there in person. We will not be offering these remotely. And more cities are to be announced. We will be having some workshops as well in Europe. Jason Smith will be hosting those. So if anything, if you're interested in workshops in EMEA and you're not based in the US, please contact Jason Smith at ServiceNow.com. I also put his email in the chat as well. And then we'll also have a What's New webinar in Q2 in June. We have not yet scheduled that, but please keep in touch and stay tuned for when we do post the registration link for that as well. And like I said, we've already posted the registration link in the Zoom chat in case you are interested. So yeah. It looks like questions have slowed down to the point when they have stopped now. So I think I'm going to end the webinar very slowly in case anyone else wants to slip in a last minute city suggestion or question. Oh, I also see a question from Ankit about AIOps and observability. We have things coming out within the next year planned that would help unify AIOps and observability, but it is in development. But please come to the June webinar to learn more about how we are better unifying AIOps and observability. So that is the answer I'll give you for now. And there's a chance that we may also have observability, cloud observability, joining us for our next What's New session, or maybe hosting another session separately for them. So just also stay tuned for that. Thank you for all the questions, Ankit. You've asked many today, which I've enjoyed engaging with.